Ishtosi me dridam hito tato bhakshami te hitam. Translation: Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you the most confidential part of knowledge. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Text 65. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pati jani priyosime. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship and always offer your homage unto me. Thus come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. 666. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva. Nor will there ever be one more dear. Text 70. Adyeshyate chaya imam dharmyam sambadhamavayo jnanayajena thainaham ishtasyamiti me mati. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence. Text 71. Shravananusuyascha Srinuyarapi yonara sopi mukta shubhalokan praptanuyat punakarmanam. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reaction and attains to the planets where the pious dwell. Text 72. Kachid etat tritum partha Svayakagrena chetasaha kachirha jnana samoham vanashtaste dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, have you heard this attentively with your mind? And are your illusions in ignorance now dispelled? Text 73. Arjuna uvacha nashto moha smitir labdva Tvat prasadan mayachyuta stitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy, and I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. Text 74. Sanjaya uvacha ityaham vasudevasya partasya cha mahatmana samvadami mam hashrusam adbhutam romaharshanam. Sanjaya said, thus I have heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna, and so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. Okay. Text 64. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you the most confidential part of knowledge. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Purport. The Lord has given Arjuna confidential knowledge of the Supersoul within everyone's heart. And now he is giving the most confidential part of this knowledge. Just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the end of the 9th chapter, he has said, just always think of me. The same instruction is repeated herein to stress the essence of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. This essence is not understood by a common man, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, a pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction in all Vedic literature. What Krishna is saying in this connection is the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna, but by all living entities. So here we're getting the most essential knowledge. This is the essence of knowledge. Is that think of Krishna, always think of Krishna, and render devotional service unto Krishna. We hear that this is the supreme occupation for all living entities, not just Arjuna. Because the soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, naturally, that is what we're seeking. And it's not some impersonal relationship. It's very personal. It's highly personal. That's why even in this material world, all the so-called nectar that we've derived in our life has come from other people, our friends and our relationships, our family. We never reminisce on the time when we were, very much depressed and alone and just wallowing in our own isolation in our rooms. But we're thinking about the time that we went to Colorado with our friends, or the time that we did this with our friends. It's always we're always coming back to those thoughts, But ultimately, this hankering, actually, it finds its place in our relationship with the Lord. Because that's actually fulfilling. We hear in the Bhagavatam, Savaya Pungsam Paro Dharmo, Jato Bhakti Radhokshaje, Haituki Apratihata, Yayatma Suprasidati. So that this devotional service, which is what directly links us to the Lord, it's not really any other process. Like every other process is kind of meant to take us to that devotional service. Just like I was hearing one analogy, that if one wants to touch their nose, they can go like this, or they can go, under the leg, or they can go, so many different ways. But this way is the best way to do it, the most direct way to do it. So similarly, we're all hankering after this pleasure, something, from the very beginning. As babies, we're relishing our relationship with our mother, attached to her affection, and then transition to something else, always attached. But these are very indirect ways of connecting to Krishna, and we're connecting to the Lord's external energy. So it's not anything that we're even looking for, We're looking for Him, and to have that relationship with Him. And so as we grow, we get rid of the toys, get rid of the whatever, and then gradually knowledge comes, if we're fortunate enough. And then we're doing yoga, we're finding some more bliss, pleasure in that, and some other things. And then ultimately, the mercy of the devotee enters into our life, and we get this transcendental knowledge, and we get the most direct way to connect to the Lord. And then that eradicates all frustration in our life, because it's very simple. Krishna is saying, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Couldn't get more clear than that. Always think of me and become my devotee. So we know what Krishna looks like. We see his pictures, we know his name, we know his address. He's given us everything about him. The Bhagavatam, this is that's Krishna Katha. So we hear everything about Krishna. from the devotees of the Lord. And then Bhagavad Gita is Krishna Upadesh. It's actual instructions coming from the mouth of the Lord himself. And so we have two very, very, very direct ways of connecting to the Lord. He's given us all information about himself because he knows that's what we're after. We actually want that. So he's very merciful. He's given him all information, where to find him, what he likes to do, what he likes to eat, what pleases him. So he's saying, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me. And then you will come to me. And it's not some, Mayavadis, they may be thinking, they will pose arguments, oh, why are you so attached to this form, Krishna? The Supreme is within everything. To the rock. Your attachment to this form is Maya. But very practically, we can see that, even in mundane logic, if I'm trying to go to Russia, or I'm trying to go to Europe, or I'm trying to go anywhere, whatever, I buy a ticket to, I'm trying to go to Florida, I buy a ticket to California. You're not going to get there, If you were trying to feed your child and you put food in his ear, or you try to give him some rocks or something, that won't do. So even in the mundane sense, this logic, everything is one, the Supreme, all results. So if you worship Kali, you'll get the result that, you'll come to that Supreme platform. You worship Ganesh, you'll come to the Supreme platform. You worship the crazy homeless man on the side of the road, so you won't get anywhere, actually. You'll go to hell. Quickly realize that. So many examples in our lives where we've done this to our friends, we've worshipped our friends, rendered them service, and it got us nowhere but pain and frustration. And so this philosophy, it doesn't hold water even in a mundane sense. So how will it ever hold water when applied to the science of devotional service and the science of God? It won't apply. God is supremely logical. It's not that, God is beyond your mundane logic. I mean, that's there, but God is supremely logical as well. So we can see this, So he's very kindly given us so much information, and then we can always think of him, always chanting about him, always hearing about him, because he's got pastimes, he's got name, form, all these things, transcendental variety. It's not that he's devoid of all these things. That wouldn't really make any sense at all, and it doesn't make any sense, because that's not what we're after. We're alive. We've always been alive, so we're after the supreme living being, a relationship with the supreme living being. And that's life. So Krishna is giving that knowledge, the essence of that knowledge. So we can go on to the next one. Text 65. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Purport. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This is the most confidential part of knowledge. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. Very quickly, we come to realize that the perfection of all of our activities is by keeping Krishna there. Is that in the temple lifestyle, we're doing that when we're cooking, everything that we're doing, we're trying to keep Krishna there. And we realize that that is how we become satisfied. It's not satisfying to just clean the floor or cook or do these things. We never like doing those things. But the second that we put Krishna there, suddenly we're praying, please give me more, give me more, give me more, ideally. But this happens over time. And this applies, again, this logic applies to more smaller scale activities, cooking, cleaning, all these things. But even much grander things like society, is that we see that all society across the world and nations and histories, they've always been at the center of them have been personalities which have either been elected by the public, or as in the case of now, right, we elect presidents, personalities that we say he's got some good qualities that I agree with. Of course, in the past, particularly in the Vedic times, these personalities were actually perfect. And so society was perfect. And the street sweepers and all classes of men, the administrators, the intellectuals, all of them were very much satisfied with their work, because what happens now is that we're just working for the production of goods, for the production of matter, for this nonsense. And inherently, that's not satisfying to the soul. So in this day and age, nobody is satisfied. And because there's not a perfect individual at the center of society, you have someone who's qualified to be in this position, taking this position, but he's not going to find satisfaction there, like a philosopher becoming a janitor, or a janitor becoming a philosopher, scientist, these things like that. So no satisfaction. In the Vedic times, under the Rajarshis, we even hear in the Bhagavad Gita, Evam parampara praptam Rajarshayo Guru, something like that. But that this knowledge was given, all of the kings, the saintly kings understood this knowledge. And in this way, life was perfect, because at the center of it was the pure devotee of the Lord. So all activities are being engaged for the service of the Lord. And naturally, that's very satisfying to all living entities. So you can see that just by putting Krishna at the center of all of our activities, everything becomes complete. It's not so nice to be performing an activity and then constantly we're thinking of something nonsense. We may be thinking of something completely unrelated to that activity. And so like we're cooking, thinking of some movie, we're burning the food, or I'm focused on the cooking, but in a way that's not so productive, like I'm stressed out, I'm so worried, what are they going to think of me in this way? But one who's surrendered to the Lord, he's beyond all such anxieties, because he understands that actually the Lord, he's sanctioning the results of the activity. All I have to do is think of him and perform my activity in order to please him. And like that's actual equality, because then all individuals in society, they have this understanding, that whatever I'm doing, satisfying because it's devotional service. I'm performing this activity under the guidance of the Rajarshi, who's a pure devotee of the Lord, right? So this is perfect. The system is perfect. So we can continue. These words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on his original form of God, on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. He should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. This is so practical. We can see when I'm thinking of something very scary to me, I'm getting some symptoms of fear. Maybe I'm anxious and whatnot. I'm thinking of something that's triggering lust in me. There will be some symptoms, some sweating, some feelings in the stomach, things like this. I'm thinking of something that's some food that's very palatable. My mouth starts to water. I'm feeling these symptoms. Really, when you think of Krishna, something is there. And according to our realization, it will depend. And that whole science has been given to us. So it's not that we just think of anything and that's the supreme. So this is a Buddhist technique that focus your mind on one point, whatever. It can be anything. And if you look at a lot of the artwork, like Tibetan Buddhist artwork, a lot of it is sex. So they focus on these deities. They have different deities, Vajra, something, or other, Kalabhairava and Yogini. And so, because they don't really have this conception of the supreme, all they're doing is just trying to come to a point in their intelligence which they can, divide that duality of material nature and realize that it's all temporary. It's all temporary, therefore nothing matters. Come to that nothing matters void. And so they think that they can meditate on anything, sex, whatever, food. And in one sense, sure, you will eventually, you might, depending on how intense your concentration is, you will eventually arrive to that void, but that's not what we're after. We're after, we want to think of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says here that one should fix his mind, concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with 2 hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. Now, concentrating one's mind on Krishna, that form is also very beautifully described in Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma. And he says, Ananda Chinmaya Sad Ujjvala Vigrahasya Govindam Aripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Ananda Chinmaya Sad Ujjvala Vigrahasya. Krishna's form, it's not mundane. It's dazzling spiritual effulgence. His dazzling spiritual effulgence, replete with bliss, knowledge, eternity, these things. He's the original person. Brahma is saying, I worship that original person. So this form, Krishna's form, it's not mundane. By thinking of Krishna's form, it's not some mundane attachment or mundane sentiments that arise from that, but it's transcendental. And it takes us beyond the Brahman platform. And it's much more practical to meditate on this form than the all-pervasive Brahman effulgence. Because this effulgence ultimately is resting in Krishna too. So, and so many nice ways to think of Krishna. Chanting is the crest jewel of all processes. Chanting the Lord's glories. So this is such a nice way to think of the Lord. Okay, the words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with 2 hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. These are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead Krishna. He should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayan, Rama, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. Text 66. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Purport. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge, processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme, Brahman, knowledge of the Supersoul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced orders of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. Nowadays, there's so many kinds of bogus paths. It's always, all these concocted paths are always coming up, so many new ones and new ones and new ones. And more or less, they're incredibly dangerous because they're diverting our attention, the attention of the spirit souls. They're diverting it away from Krishna. Krishna is saying, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. So you can't get that in any other. You can't get that deliverance from sinful reaction except by surrendering to the Lord. In fact, all other processes and paths are basically promoting this kind of, in their various languages, oh, yes, this is a good path because take up this path and you won't have to worry about so many things, right? Fear and all these things. But more or less, we see that everybody is still addicted to the same activities, engaging in illicit activities, illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, wasting time. Is that actually there's really only two cults. It's the cult of Kali and the cult of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the cult of Kali is so many, it's dangerous because it's seemingly so much variety, but actually all of them are leading to the same path because they're all practicing the same tenets and going to hell. They're all practicing those meat eating, illicit sex, all these things. But just in the sky, not even in the skies, but it's like a serpent with a jewel. One has a ruby, one has a amethyst, one has a diamond. Yeah, some variety is there, but actually you go there and you'll get bitten by the snake. The same venom is there. You'll have the same reaction. So this is happening now in society. And we're being given the task very kindly to preach the truth all the time, wherever we go. Fearlessly, Krishna says, do not fear. Ma shuchaha. Not worry. We can trust in the Lord. We have practical experience of this. Pure devotee is there and he's giving so much faith all the time. We're rendering service to the pure devotee and he's just giving so much faith. You can see he's been doing this for 50 years. He's amazing. He's totally purified, it's amazing, Even like we've been here for a year, 4 years, and we can see that, yeah, I'm safe, at the temple, I'm safe here. There's no worry. It's only when I go out and I get myself into trouble that I'm suddenly find myself in danger. But as long as I'm surrendered to Krishna, I'm safe. We can practically see this. Every day is so much nice prasadam. All the activities we have. Nothing ever troublesome ever happens, it's amazing. So this anxiety that we're feeling, we can abandon it. Surrender to Krishna and abandon this anxiety and this fear. And have faith in Krishna. But as we're walking a very real path, the realist path. And so we're being asked to be as real as this path, And that means 24/7 that we should be preaching, Preaching this essence of knowledge, just abandon all your plans that you're making, constantly making plans. And just take this, accept the plan of the Lord, the plan that the Lord has for you, just accept it because it's perfect. Why are you're concocting so many ideas? I'm concocting so many ideas all the time, plans all the time. For what end? You know? Ultimately, I want what the Lord has to give me. We all want that, you know? So easy thing to do, simple thing to do. It's just sarva dharmam parityaja, and then take shelter of the Lord. So it's so much frustration, so much difficulty coming up with ideas, plans, all these things. Okay, how am I gonna get my bread? How am I gonna do this? You know, oh, everything is failing. How am I gonna come up from this? You know, how am I gonna prove to my friends tonight that I'm cool? How, whatever. So many things we're looking for that. That satisfaction. Yayatma supersedati. We're looking for that satisfaction of the self. We're not going to get it from all these concocted ideas. We're just going to be frustrated. We're going to be dissatisfied. So just accepting this, the Lord plan, very easy, very simple. In the 8th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. The Lord is so nice that whatever little surrender, little tiny surrender, he considers it so greatly. Even if we just put on Tulsi, that's such an amazing thing that we can do. And he will facilitate the rest of our safety back to him, little by little, in ways that we can handle. Perfectly, you know, arranged in a way that's pleasing to us, in a way that we will appreciate, you know, so merciful. And then eventually, just from that little action, Tulsi, you know, taking prasad, this thing, and then you come to surrendering more and more and more and more, until you surrender everything. False ego is surrendered. But yeah, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. That can even just mean just put on this Tulsi. Wake up every morning and have a picture of the Lord next to your bed or on the wall next to your bed and pay an obeisance. One, you know, have a picture of Prabhupada, pay an obeisance, you know. That is such a great deal, and that will take us all the way. Doesn't have to be such an extravagant thing. We're not saying, no. This Krishna consciousness movement, it's not, you know, it's not DARE where we're going out and preaching, you know, get rid of your drugs. It's not PETA where we're saying stop hurting animals. It's not veganism where we're saying give up your milk and your animal products. We're not doing those things. That's concocted religion. That's plan making, because what does that do? It's like whack-a-mole, you know, you whack one mole, another one's coming. But simply surrendering to Krishna, all things happen. And we don't even have to worry about thinking about so many things. Okay, I gotta, you know, remind myself one cigarette today, one thing, whatever, so many plan making. I mean, that will help, but actually, ultimately, all you have to do, put on the Tulsi, pay an obeisance or 3, you know, chant one round. And little by little, all the things, other things diminish. And suddenly you're watering the tree and the fruits are coming. So Krishna is the Lord is the root of all existence. So watering that root, all nice things happen. And we can see, if I do that with anything else, if I treat anything else like it's the root of existence, any demigod, any human being, my senses, my body, my nation, whatever, if I put that at the center of my reality, my service, I have to serve. If I put that there, I won't get the same result as if I put the Lord there. I'll be stuck thinking of, okay, now I got to be vegan. Now I've got to, do some philanthropic community service and do something. But all of these things, they don't actually relieve us of our sinful reactions. They don't relieve us of that fear, of that anxiety. Only this one thing, surrendering to Krishna. According to the devotional process, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupational duty according to his position in the social order. But if by executing his duty, one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances, Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. We see this. Under all circumstances, Krishna, he's protecting us. If we just keep chanting, we're protected. There's no reason to fear anything. We're protected. Keep the Lord's names on the tip of the tongue. Safety. He's protecting us under all circumstances. So many things might arise in our day where we're worrying about something, but those fears, they never fructify when we're in devotional service. Some fear is happening, whatever. It said we realize that today I got to serve the Lord. Tomorrow I will also get to serve the Lord. The next day too, so on and so forth. And, maybe I had some scary encounter on Sankirtan, or I had some anxiety, but that's just, afterwards I realized in the Lord's mercy, it was nectar. I learned how to handle something better. I was given more tolerance. I was given an opportunity to display tolerance and to display what I've been learning. So everything that arises is the Lord's mercy, and we should be confident, and we should have no fear when we're engaging in the service. Only fear should be that I don't want to fall down. I don't want to not be engaged in devotional service, because that's hellish existence. So the mind is burning with lust, it's hellish condition, envy, you're just wanting to kill yourself, wanting to end it. It's no good. But we don't have to worry about falling down so much if we're just chanting all the time, engaging, hearing these things, preaching wherever I go, preaching. The second I'm out somewhere and I'm being tempted by Maya, I know the first thing I do is preach. Anyone next to me, hey, have you heard of monks before? We meditate, we do the explain it, talk about it. Have you heard of Hare Krishna, whatever? And then like that, constantly preaching, so much nectar in that engagement, even starting small, we're having some fear. Okay, don't want to preach to this guy. Maybe find somebody who materially, speaking, look at him. Oh, looks like someone that maybe I might get along with or something. Go up, say, have you heard of this mantra? Have you heard of mantra before? You know what this means? Have you heard of monks? We met these things. So nice. In the bathroom, urinating in the urinal. Guy next to you, just say, hey, bro, what do you think of this haircut? This is a shika, this is an ancient Vedic hairstyle, or these things. Preaching can happen all the time. And like that, we'll be safe. And we'll be, so yeah. Let's see. Okay, so it's almost about time. Any devotees have any questions? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing your realizations and reading Prabhupada's purport so nicely and Krishna's words so nicely. I had a reflection and a comment, or and a question, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So my reflection is earlier you were saying that this hankering that we have, it finds its place in Krishna. I like how you worded that. Because we all hanker for something, and ultimately that brought us here because we were wanting to see Krishna, wanting Krishna. And yeah, so I used to think like, why go out and preach when everyone has their karma and their desires? You know, ultimately, if they desire Krishna, they'll come, right? And so I used to think like, it seems like a waste of time, you know, to go out and preach because otherwise, like, I'm disturbing others. I used to think like that, but I'm realizing now, especially from hearing you talk today, that, you know, we all have this natural love for Krishna. Like there's no denying that. Everyone's looking for God, Krishna, whatever name that he has. And so when we talk to people on the street like this or wherever, gas station, bathroom, whatever, then actually we're not disturbing them. We're actually uplifting them. And they might not want it at the moment, but you're suggesting something. And, you know, everyone's being suggested things like with billboards, commercials, advertisements on social media, the internet, all these ways of being suggested things. Oh, I saw this advertisement. That's why I bought it. You know, so like when we suggest Krishna, when we say, oh, have you heard about this lifestyle? Then it actually could plant a seed and maybe they'll remember, I remember I saw someone in orange or I saw someone in all white or had a shika or tilak on their face, all these different things. And so it's really nice to hear that, you speak about that surrender to Krishna. It's the only way that we can really like be happy and we can share that with others. And that makes us happier as devotees. You know, we hear later on in the verses that we read that Krishna is so pleased when we share the supreme secret with others. That's my comment. Sorry, that was a lot. And my question
Thank you so much.
My question is, you're talking about seeing God, and we should try to see him. And I was listening to a lecture today, actually, and they were quoting a story with Prabhupada, and they were saying that somebody got up in a class one day that he was giving, and they said, "Can you see God?" And he said, "Yes, I see God every day." And then he asked this guy, like, "Do you want to see God?" And so basically, like, this devotee was saying that this desire to see God has to be strong, and then we can see God. So my question is, like, how do we increase that desire to see Krishna? Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, the like Narada Muni, Srila Narada Muni, all he did was he heard from the pure devotees of the Lord, and gradually a taste was there, begins to form. We see that being the case. But you know, we can force it too, force the mind. We have the intelligence. And gradually the intelligence becomes purified, and then we can force the mind to think of the Krishna. You know, and the more we think of him in the mind, the more that when we're not thinking of him, we'll realize that that's a hellish condition. And so automatically we'll go back to thinking of the Lord. But we can force it. I mentioned this, I think, last time I gave class, but I really like to look at pictures, you know, the BBT artwork. And that's one practical way that I can purify the imagery that's in my mind. Because I got so much gross imagery in my mind, you know. I purify the imagery by looking at the transcendental artwork. And then gradually, desire to want to always do that will be there. And then, you know, we're chanting and we're seeing the form of the Lord in the mind, and And naturally, because Krishna is very attractive, more attractive than anything we've ever seen, desire will be there. We had no problem having desire for some little thing. So there will be no problem with having that desire for Krishna. He's very attractive. It's just a matter of that I put so much nonsense in my head, that it becomes hard. It becomes hard to focus the mind. Maybe for a second I'm seeing this beautiful form that Srila Prabhupada was describing in the purports, bluish cowboy, peacock, flute, lotus eyes. Oh man, yeah, he's so beautiful. We got so many depictions here. Look how pretty he is, handsome. And then it goes to something else, But naturally, if we just keep asserting our intelligence, beating the mind, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami, beating the mind, then gradually, yeah, there will be no problem. We'll have attraction for Krishna. I hope that was okay. Any other questions? Yes, Prabhu.
So I was thinking about this. I'm kind of confused on what this whole, why do we call Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Why don't we just call him God? Why does he have to be the supreme? He's the supreme or the supreme person. Why do we say Godhead though? I don't understand this.
Yeah. Well, there's Krishna as Avatari. He's got so many other forms, so many other names. He's got a whole material manifestation. It's got so many elements, so many living entities. So there's so many, we hear that we're also Brahman. We're also part of the Supreme. So among all those things, the Supreme, so many things that the Supreme is, that this form, Krishna, is the source, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, there's Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and from Mahavishnu, so many, and then expansions, and then into the material world, so many jiva souls, all a part of Krishna. But out of all those things, Krishna is the Supreme Personality. He's the source, So I hope that, I hope that was okay, Prabhu. No. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we can end there. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki